The great chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with voices from 100 different worlds. Crystal beings hummed in frequencies that made the walls vibrate. Scaled creatures clicked their claws against metal seats. Gas-form entities swirled, in their containment suits creating tiny storms of color. But today, something was different. Something was missing. Council Chairman Vex Tar raised his crystalline hand, and the noise slowly died down. His body caught the light from the chambers, center and threw rainbows across the curved walls. He had been leading these meetings for 30 years, and he knew every seat, every delegate, every voice. The human section was empty. "Where is Ambassador Hyunwoo?" Vextar's voice rang clear and cold through the chamber. The emergency session was called for all species. The humans were specifically requested to attend. A few delegates turned to look at the empty human seats. The chairs looked strange without their usual occupants. No data tablets scattered on the tables. No coffee cups with strange Earth symbols. No quiet conversations in that musical language the humans used. So Young, a young human woman who worked as a junior diplomat, stood up from her seat in the observer section. Her black hair was tied back neatly, and her dark eyes showed worry. "Chairman Vexitar, I have been trying to contact Ambassador Hyunwoo since yesterday. His communication device is not responding." "Typical human unreliability," muttered Counselor Zrak from the warrior caste of Thulon. His red scales glittered as he shifted in his seat. They probably found something more interesting to do. Several delegates made sounds that might have been laughter in their various species. The humans had always been different. They were new to the galactic community, only 40 years since first contact. They asked too many questions. They got emotional about things that didn't matter. They made friends with species that others found dangerous or unimportant. So Young's face grew pale. "Sir, this is not like them. The humans take council duties very seriously. Ambassador Hyunwoo has never missed a meeting, not once in 15 years. Perhaps they are finally learning their place," said Counselor Velana, her blue skin shimmering. She represented the Trade Federation of the Inner Worlds. The humans have always been too eager to interfere in matters beyond their understanding. Vextar raised his hand again. "We will proceed without them. The matter of the Outer Rim mining rights requires immediate attention." But So Young could not concentrate on the meeting. Something was wrong. Very wrong. She quietly activated her personal communicator and tried to reach the human embassy. No response. She tried the human colony on New Sol. Nothing. Earth itself remained silent. During the break, she rushed to the communication center. Her hands shook as she input emergency codes that should have connected her directly to Earth's government. The screen remained blank. The universal translator showed only one message: "Signal not found." "This cannot be right," she whispered. She tried again, using different channels, different frequencies. Every human settlement, every human ship, every human outpost. All silent, all dark. Fear crept up her spine like ice water. She ran back to the council chamber and requested permission to speak. Vextar looked annoyed but allowed her to approach the speaker's platform. "Honored delegates," So Young began, her voice trembling slightly. "I cannot contact any human settlement or ship. All communication with human space has been lost." The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates seemed concerned, others appeared indifferent. A few even looked pleased. "Probably a technical problem," said Counselor Grix, a slug-like being who left a trail of slime wherever he moved. "The humans and their unreliable technology." "No," So Young said firmly. "Our communication systems are compatible with galactic standards. We have backup systems, emergency protocols. This is not a technical failure." Vexitar's crystalline body grew brighter, a sign of deep thought. "Very well. We will send investigation teams to the nearest human colonies. Counselor Raxel, your ships are fastest. Can you reach the human settlement on Kepler Station within 6 hours?" Commander Raxel of the Zephyrian Trade Consortium nodded. His blue-green skin rippled with agreement. "Of course, Chairman. My fastest scout ship can be there in 4 hours." The meeting continued. But So Young barely heard the discussions about trade routes and territorial disputes. She kept trying, her communicator, hoping for any signal from her people. Nothing came. 4 hours later, Commander Raxel's voice crackled through the communication system. Static filled the council chamber as his report came through. Chairman Vextar, I am at Kepler Station. The human settlement is empty. Empty? Vextar's voice rose in pitch. Destroyed? Attacked? No, sir, not destroyed. Just empty. The buildings are intact. The lights are on. There are meals left on tables as if people just stopped eating and walked away. Personal belongings are still in the homes. Children's toys scattered on the floor. But there are no humans. None at all. Silence filled the chamber. So Young felt her legs go weak. Commander Raxel continued. Sir, I am reading life support systems still active. The gardens are still growing food. The machines are still running. But every human is gone. It is as if they just vanished. Check the spaceport, Vextar commanded. Look for signs of evacuation ships. A pause, then. Sir, the spaceport shows no signs of recent activity. No launch pads have been used. No fuel has been consumed. The human ships are still in their docks, powered down and locked. So Young grabbed the nearest chair to steady herself. How could an entire settlement of 3,000 people just disappear without using any ships? Over the next several hours, similar reports came from other investigation teams. Human colonies throughout their space were empty but undamaged. No signs of struggle, no evidence of attack, no indication of where the people had gone. As the reports continued, the mood in the council chamber began to change. Some delegates who had seemed amused by human absence now looked worried. Others appeared thoughtful, as if trying to remember something important. But many still seemed relieved. Councillor Villana spoke for this group. Perhaps this is for the best. The humans were always causing complications. Now we can conduct galactic affairs with proper order and logic. Several delegates agreed. The humans had always been the odd ones out. Too emotional, too unpredictable, too willing to ask uncomfortable questions about why things were done certain ways. So Young stood alone in her observer seat, staring at the empty human delegation area. Somewhere out there, her people had vanished without a trace. And most of the galaxy seemed happy about it. She had no idea that this was only the beginning. 3 months had passed since the humans vanished, and Commander Raxel stared at the warning lights flashing across his ship's control panel. The hyperspace beacon for Trade Route 7 was failing again. This was the 4th beacon this week, and his engineers had no idea why. Sir, his communications officer called out, the cargo haulers are requesting permission to return to base. They say it's too dangerous to continue without stable navigation beacons. Raxel's blue-green skin darkened with frustration. The Zephyrian Trade Consortium had built their entire economy on fast, reliable shipping between star systems. These route failures were costing them millions of credits every day. Have our engineers fixed the previous beacons? He asked. No, sir. They keep failing within hours of repair. Engineer Tokval says the systems are too complex. He cannot understand how they were maintained before. That was the problem. Before the humans disappeared, these beacons had worked perfectly for decades. Human maintenance teams would visit each beacon once a month, perform what they called routine checks, and everything would continue working smoothly. The Zephyrians had assumed it was simple work, nothing that required special skills. They had been wrong. Raxel walked to the engineering bay, where Engineer Tokval was bent over a beacon control unit. Parts were scattered across the work table, and diagnostic screens showed readings that made no sense. Report, Raxel ordered. Tokval looked up, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. Sir, these systems are impossible. Look at this. He pointed to a series of components that seemed to be connected randomly. According to our manuals, these parts should not work together. The power flow makes no logical sense. Yet somehow, they created stable hyperspace fields for 40 years. What did the humans do differently? That is the mystery, sir. Their maintenance logs show they replaced parts that our diagnostics said were working perfectly. They adjusted settings that our computers said were already optimal. They talked to the beacon computers as if they were living beings. Raxel frowned. Talk to them? Yes, sir. The audio logs are full of humans saying things like, "Come on, old girl, work with me here," and "I know you're tired, but we need you for just a bit longer." We thought it was just human strangeness. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Kayla 9 was having similar problems. The cybernetic being had been tasked with maintaining the massive Nexus station, a crucial hub that connected 12 different star systems. For 40 years, human engineers had kept the station running smoothly. Now, 3 months after their disappearance, critical systems were failing daily. Unit 7 Alpha is offline again, reported her assistant, a mechanical drone with multiple arms. This is the third time this week. Kayla 9's optical sensors focused on the diagnostic display. The pattern made no sense. The failing systems were different each time, but they all had one thing in common. They had been regularly serviced by humans. She accessed the human maintenance records, hoping to find some clue. What she found confused her even more. The humans had performed maintenance on systems that showed no signs of problems. They had replaced parts that tested as fully functional. They had made adjustments that seemed to serve no purpose. Yet somehow, those systems had worked perfectly while the humans were there. "Run analysis on human maintenance pattern 47 beta," she commanded her computer. Analysis complete. Human maintenance pattern appears random and inefficient. No logical basis for performed actions. Then why did it work? Kayla 9 wondered aloud. She decided to try something different. Instead of following logical repair procedures, she would copy exactly what the humans had done. She found a system that was showing early signs of failure and performed the same seemingly pointless adjustments that human engineer Minky had made 6 months earlier. The system immediately stabilized. "How is this possible?" she asked her computer. Unknown. The adjustments should have no effect on system performance. But they did have an effect. Somehow, the humans had understood something about these systems that no other species could grasp. They had formed relationships with the machines, treating them like living things that needed care and understanding, rather than just mechanical devices that followed programming. Back on the trade routes, the situation was getting worse. The failure of navigation beacons had created a domino effect. Ships were taking longer routes, using more fuel and arriving late. Some had gotten lost entirely, stranded between stars when their beacons went dark. Commander Raxel received an urgent communication from the Council of Tides, the aquatic species that managed much of the galaxy's financial systems. Their representative, Admiral Juwan, appeared on his screen in a bubble of water. "Commander Raxel, the trade disruptions are causing severe economic problems. Cargo that should take 3 days to deliver is now taking 2 weeks. Our financial models assumed reliable human transportation networks. We are working to restore the beacons," Raxel replied, though he knew it was not entirely true. "It is not just the beacons," Admiral Juwan continued. "The trade agreements that humans negotiated are falling apart. Without their diplomatic touch, old conflicts between species are resurging. The Thulon warrior caste is refusing to deal with the Villani traders. The Crystal Singers claim the marsh dwellers are violating ancient protocols." Raxel had heard similar reports from across the galaxy. Humans had been involved in hundreds of trade agreements, not as the main parties, but as mediators and translators. They had a gift for understanding what different species really wanted and finding ways for everyone to get it. Without them, species that had been trading peacefully for decades were now arguing over details that had never been problems before. On Nexus Station, Dr. Kayla 9 was discovering just how much the humans had been doing behind the scenes. As she dug deeper into the station's systems, she found layer upon layer of small fixes, adjustments, and improvements that the humans had made over the years. None of them had been officially reported. None of them appeared in the maintenance logs that other species were allowed to see. The humans had quietly made thousands of tiny changes that kept the station running better than it was supposed to. They were not just maintaining the station, Kayla 9 realized. They were constantly improving it, making it more efficient, more stable, more reliable. And they never told anyone. Her assistant drone tilted its sensor array. Why would they hide their improvements? Perhaps because other species would have demanded to know how they did it, Kalanine replied. And the humans knew that some knowledge cannot be simply transferred. It must be learned through experience and understanding. As the weeks passed, more problems emerged. Security systems that had worked perfectly began having glitches. The Galactic Communication Network experienced delays and errors. Even the Council's own building systems started malfunctioning. All of these systems had one thing in common. They had been maintained or improved by humans at some point over the past 40 years. So Young, still the only human left in Council. Space watched the growing chaos with a mixture of sadness and worry. She tried to help where she could, sharing what little she knew about human maintenance techniques. But she was a diplomat, not an engineer. She did not have the knowledge or experience that her people had accumulated over decades. The galaxy was slowly learning what they had lost when the humans disappeared. It was not just a species that had vanished. It was the glue that had held their civilization together, the gentle hands that had kept their machines running, and the patient voices that had helped them understand each other. And still, no one knew where the humans had gone, or why they had left without a single word of explanation. 6 months after the humans vanished, the galaxy was falling apart. Chairman Vextar stood before the emergency council session, his crystalline body dim with worry. Around him, delegates from across the galaxy showed signs of stress in their own ways. The Thulon warriors' scales had turned darker colors. The Aquatic Council of Tides members moved frantically in their water-filled chambers. Even the usually calm crystal singers hummed in discordant frequencies. The economic reports are worse than predicted, Vextar announced. 70% of our major trade routes are operating at reduced capacity. The transportation networks are failing faster than we can repair them. Councillor Velana rose from her seat, her blue skin pale with exhaustion. The Trade Federation has lost contact with 37 member colonies. Without human negotiated agreements, old conflicts are destroying partnerships that took decades to build. It is worse than trade problems, added Councillor Zrak, his red scales dull. Our military coordination is breaking down. Human tactical advisors had been quietly helping our defense networks communicate with each other. Without them, our fleets cannot work together effectively. So Young listened from her observer seat, her heart heavy. She had tried to warn them that humans were more important than they realized. Now the galaxy was learning this lesson the hard way. A soft chime interrupted the session. The chamber's communication system activated and a holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It was an elderly human man with gray hair and kind eyes. So Young gasped and stood up. "Elder Yunho," she called out. "You are alive." The old man smiled sadly. "Hello, So Young. I am sorry I could not contact you sooner. I have been in deep space far from regular communication networks." Chairman Vexitar's body brightened with surprise and hope. "Elder Yunho, where are your people? The human settlements are empty, but we found no signs of evacuation." "We did not evacuate in the way you think," Yunho replied. "We left because we had to prepare for something that this council refuses to believe exists." "Prepare for what?" Vextar demanded. Yunho's expression grew serious. "For the last 15 years, our deep space monitoring stations detected signals from beyond our galaxy. Something is coming toward us, something that consumes entire worlds. We tried to warn the Council many times. You dismissed our reports as fear-mongering and human hysteria." So Young remembered those reports. She had been present when human scientists presented their data to the Council. The other species had laughed at human paranoia and imagination. The signals could have been natural phenomena, Councillor Velana protested. There was no proof of hostile intent. "There is now," Yunho said quietly. 3 of our outer monitoring stations have gone dark in the past month. Not damaged, not destroyed, simply consumed. The pattern is moving toward inhabited space. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Hive Collective was making disturbing discoveries of their own. This species of insectoid beings had spent centuries building surveillance networks that monitored space traffic and potential threats. Their queen node, Sikra, had been reviewing security data, when she found gaps that should not exist. Worker node 7742, explain these missing data sectors, she commanded. The worker insect clicked its mandibles nervously. Queen node. Those sectors were monitored by human-built stations. When the humans departed, the stations stopped transmitting data. Why? Were they sabotaged? No, Queen node. The stations still function, but they no longer share their information with our networks. It appears the humans programmed them to stop cooperation when humans were no longer present to supervise. Queen node Sikra felt a chill run through her carapace. The humans had been quietly watching the spaces between galaxies for decades, sharing their data with anyone who asked. No one had realized how much they had been protecting the galaxy from external threats. She accessed the historical records and found dozens of incidents where human early warning systems had detected dangerous phenomena. Rogue asteroids, radiation storms, even pirate fleets had been spotted by human sensors long before anyone else noticed them. The humans had quietly alerted the appropriate authorities, preventing disasters that other species never knew about. Now, those watchful eyes were gone. Back in the council chamber, Elder Yunho continued his explanation. We spent 40 years trying to integrate with galactic society, hoping to build the trust needed to prepare for this threat together. But every warning was ignored. Every offer of help was dismissed as human interference. So you abandoned us? Chairman Vextar accused. No, Yunho replied firmly. We realized that we could not save the galaxy by convincing you to listen. We had to save it despite your refusal to believe. A new voice interrupted the conversation. Dr. Kalanine's mechanical form appeared on another communication channel. Elder Yunho, I have been analyzing the human modifications to our systems. You did not just maintain our technology. You improved it in ways we never understood. Why? Yunho smiled sadly. Because we knew this day would come. Every repair we made, every system we upgraded, every network we helped build was designed with one purpose: to function when humanity was no longer there to guide it. So Young felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in her mind. The maintenance routines that seemed random and inefficient were actually preparations for automated defense systems, Yunho confirmed. The trade route modifications that appeared unnecessary were backup communication networks. The diplomatic agreements that seemed overly complex contained protocols for species cooperation during emergencies. Commander Raxel's voice crackled through from his ship. Elder, our navigation beacons are still failing. If you prepared for this, why are our systems breaking down? Because they are not breaking down, Yunho explained. They are transforming. The beacons you think are failing are actually reconfiguring themselves into something more powerful. But this process requires time and the right activation signals. Activation signals from where? Queen Node Sikra asked, her insectoid face appearing on yet another channel. From the approaching threat itself, Yunho replied grimly. Our systems are designed to fully activate only when the danger is real and present. Until then, they will seem broken to anyone who does not understand their true purpose. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had not abandoned the galaxy. They had spent 40 years quietly preparing it for a war that was coming whether anyone believed it or not. How long do we have? Chairman Vextar asked quietly. Elder Yunho checked his instruments. Our deep space monitors show the leading edge of the void swarm will reach the outer systems in approximately 6 months. The main force will arrive 3 months after that. Void swarm? So Young whispered. That is what we call them. They move like a swarm of insects, but they consume entire planets, converting matter and energy to fuel their expansion. They have been traveling between galaxies for millions of years, and now they have found ours. The council chamber erupted in panic. Some delegates demanded immediate evacuation. Others called for mobilizing all military forces. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Above the chaos, Elder Yunho's calm voice continued. There is still hope. Humanity did not leave you defenseless. We have been preparing for 50 years, building defenses you never knew existed, creating weapons disguised as peaceful technology. But activating these systems will require cooperation between all galactic species. What do you need from us? Chairman Vextar asked. Trust, Yunho replied simply. For the first time in 40 years, the galaxy must trust humanity to know what we are doing. As the communication ended and Elder Yunho's image faded, So Young remained standing in the silent chamber. Her people had not abandoned her or the galaxy. They had made the ultimate sacrifice, giving up their homes and their place in galactic society to prepare for a war that no one else would believe was coming. Now that war was almost here, and the galaxy would finally learn what humanity had been quietly building in the shadows. 1 year after the human departure, the galaxy had learned to fear the silence between stars. Commander Raxel stared at the tactical display aboard his flagship, watching red warning signals multiply across the screen. His once mighty Zephyrian fleet was scattered across 3 star systems, trying to maintain some semblance of order as their coordination systems failed one by one. Sir, his communications officer reported, the 3rd battle group is requesting permission to withdraw. Their ships can barely communicate with each other, much less coordinate attacks. Raxel's skin darkened to deep blue-green, a sign of profound frustration. The Zephyrian fleets had once been the pride of the galaxy, known for their speed and precision. Now they stumbled around like blind creatures, unable to work together effectively. How did we become so dependent on human tactical coordinators without even realizing it? He muttered. His chief of staff, a veteran named Coltin, answered grimly. The humans never took command of our fleets, sir. They just made suggestions. Small improvements to our communication protocols, minor adjustments to our formation patterns. We thought they were just being helpful. And now we realize they were teaching our ships to dance together. Without their guidance, we have forgotten the steps. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. The mighty Thulon warrior caste, feared throughout the known systems for their combat prowess, found their fleets operating at barely 30% efficiency. The Crystal Singers, whose ships moved in perfect harmony for 1,000 years, now struggled to coordinate even simple maneuvers. It was not that humans had been the best warriors or commanders. They had been something more valuable. They had been the invisible threads that wove different species together into something greater than the sum of their parts. On Nexus Station, So Young worked frantically at a communication console, trying to coordinate evacuation efforts as panicked messages poured in from across the galaxy. She had become the unofficial human representative, the only voice speaking for her missing people. A priority transmission cut through the chaos. Admiral Taemin's weathered face appeared on her screen, his expression serious but calm. Behind him, she could see the bridge of a human ship, but it looked different somehow. Advanced. Changed. So young, he said with a slight bow of respect. I am sorry we could not contact you sooner. How are you holding up? Admiral. So Young felt tears of relief in her eyes. Where have you been? The galaxy is falling apart without you. We have been preparing, Taemin replied. Building what we needed to protect our home even when that home no longer wanted us. The Council wants to know why you left without explanation. They feel betrayed. Admiral Taemin's expression grew sad. So Young, we gave warnings for 15 years. We presented evidence, shared our concerns, offered our help in preparing defenses. How many times were we told that we were being too emotional, too paranoid, too human? So Young remembered those meetings. She had watched human scientists and military leaders present their data about the approaching threat, only to be dismissed by council members who thought humans saw enemies everywhere. We did not leave in anger, Taemin continued. We left because sometimes love means making the hardest choice of all. We had to choose between staying where we were comfortable and doing what was necessary to protect everyone. What do you mean? The Void Swarm cannot be defeated with conventional weapons or tactics. They adapt to any attack, learn from every defense. The only way to stop them is with something they have never encountered before. Perfect coordination between species that have never truly worked as one. On the screen behind Admiral Taemin, So Young could see human technicians working alongside, beings she did not recognize. Some looked like evolved versions of familiar species, while others appeared entirely alien. "Who are they?" she asked. "Refugees from other galaxies. Survivors who escaped the void swarm and found their way to us. Over the past 50 years, we have been learning from them, preparing with them, becoming something new alongside them." The transmission shifted, showing vast construction projects in deep space, ships that blended human design with alien technologies, weapons that seemed to bend space itself, defensive structures that looked like they were grown rather than built. "We spent 40 years trying to convince the Council to prepare for this threat," Admiral Taman explained. "When we finally accepted that would never happen, we activated Protocol Shepard." Protocol Shepard? Our plan to protect the galaxy despite itself. Every human who worked in galactic society was actually an agent of this protocol. Every system we maintained, every agreement we negotiated, every friendship we built was part of a larger design. So Young felt her understanding of the past 40 years shifting. The maintenance routines, the diplomatic solutions, the trade networks, all designed to transform when the time came. But transformation requires crisis. The galaxy had to experience what it meant to lose us before it could accept what we had prepared. Admiral Taman's expression grew more serious. "So Young, I need you to deliver a message to the Council. The Void Swarm's advanced scouts will arrive in the outer systems within days. When they do, every human-built or human-modified system in the galaxy will activate its true purpose, which is to turn the galaxy's greatest weakness into its greatest strength." "I don't understand." Admiral Taman smiled, and for the first time in a year, So Young saw hope in human eyes. The galaxy's species have never been able to truly work together. Every alliance is temporary. Every cooperation is limited by mistrust and misunderstanding. But humans have always been good at one thing: helping others become their best selves. The transmission showed images of human colonies, not empty as everyone believed, but transformed. Humans worked alongside alien refugees, their technologies merged, their cultures blended. They had become something new while remaining essentially human. "We did not just leave the galaxy," Admiral Taman explained. "We became its immune system. Hidden, waiting, preparing for the day when all our careful preparations would activate at once. When will that be? When the Void Swarm arrives and every species in the galaxy finally realizes they need each other to survive. That crisis will trigger systems we have been building for decades. Trade routes will become supply lines. Communication networks will become tactical coordination systems. Diplomatic agreements will become military alliances." So Young felt a mix of awe and sadness. "You sacrificed your place in galactic society to save it." "We sacrificed our comfort to ensure our survival," Admiral Taman corrected, "and the survival of everyone we care about." The transmission began to fade as the Admiral prepared to close the connection. "So Young, tell the Council that the humans are coming home, but we are not returning as the same people who left. We have learned, grown, and changed. We are ready for what comes next." "What should I tell them to expect, Admiral?" Taman's final words were both a promise and a warning. "Tell them to expect the impossible. Because humanity has always specialized in making impossible things work." As the transmission ended, So Young sat alone in the communication center, surrounded by screens showing the growing chaos across the galaxy. But for the first time in a year, she felt hope. Her people had not abandoned anyone. They had simply gone ahead to prepare the way. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would see what 40 years of human preparation could accomplish when everything they had quietly built finally wakened. The Void Swarm arrived like a plague of metal locusts. Chairman Vextar stood in the Council's emergency command center, watching in horror as entire star systems went dark on the galactic display. The enemy moved faster than anyone had imagined possible, consuming planets and converting their matter into more ships, more weapons, more destruction. "The outer rim defenses have fallen," reported Commander Raxel, his voice tight with desperation. "My fleets cannot coordinate effectively. We are fighting as individuals against an enemy that moves as one mind." Similar reports came from across the galaxy. The proud Thulon warriors were being overwhelmed by enemies that learned from every attack. The Crystal Singer's harmony was shattered by creatures that absorbed and twisted their songs into weapons. The Aquatic Council of Tides watched helplessly as the Void Swarm drained entire oceans to fuel their advance. How long until they reach the core systems? Chairman Vextar asked. At their current rate of advance, 3 days, Dr. Kayla 9 reported from Nexus Station. Sir, I am detecting massive power surges throughout the station. Systems that have been dormant for months are suddenly activating. The human modifications? Yes, sir. Every system touched by human engineers is coming online simultaneously, but I do not understand what they are supposed to do. Across the galaxy, similar awakenings were occurring. Trade route beacons that had seemed broken for months suddenly blazed with new purposes, creating a communication network of unprecedented scope. Diplomatic facilities transformed into tactical coordination centers. Mining stations revealed themselves to be weapon platforms that had been hidden in plain sight. And then, just as the Void Swarm's main force reached the middle systems, the impossible happened. Captain Su-Jin materialized on the Council's main screen, her image broadcast simultaneously to every functioning communication device in the galaxy. Behind her, the bridge of her ship showed humans working alongside beings from a dozen different species, including some that no Council member had ever seen before. Citizens of the galaxy, she began, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. This is Captain Su-Jin of the Human Defense Fleet. We are here to keep our promise. What promise? Chairman Vextar demanded. The promise we made 40 years ago when we first joined the galactic community, Su-Jin replied. To protect this galaxy and all who live in it. The main display shifted, showing the true scale of what humanity had been building. Hundreds of ships emerged from hidden bases throughout the galaxy, but they were not purely human vessels. They combined technologies from dozens of species, crewed by beings who had learned to work together in ways the galaxy had never achieved. You did not abandon us, So Young whispered, tears streaming down her face. We never could, Captain Su-Jin replied with a smile. We just had to become something more than we were. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The Void Swarm had expected to face the same fragmented resistance they had encountered in other galaxies. Individual species fighting alone, unable to coordinate, easy to divide and consume. Instead, they encountered something that had never existed before, a truly unified defense. Human tactical coordinators, enhanced by alien technologies and guided by the experience of survivors from consumed galaxies, wove the chaotic individual fleets into a single, harmonious force. Thulon warriors found their natural aggression perfectly balanced by Crystal Singer harmony. Zephyrian speed was directed by aquatic strategic depth. The trade routes that had seemed broken transformed into supply lines that could instantly redirect resources where they were needed. Communication networks that had failed for months suddenly carried tactical data with perfect clarity. Diplomatic agreements became military protocols that allowed natural enemies to fight side by side. But the true miracle was not in the technology or tactics. It was in the transformation of the galaxy's peoples themselves. Commander Raxel watched in amazement as his scattered fleet suddenly moved with perfect precision. How are we coordinating this well? Our communication systems have been failing for months. Sir, his communications officer replied with wonder in her voice. We are not using our old systems. Every ship in the fleet is connected through human-built networks that have been hidden in our vessels for years. They are guiding us, but not controlling us. We are still making our own decisions, just better decisions. On Nexus Station, Dr. Kayla 9 experienced something she had never felt before, complete integration with her machines. The station's systems no longer felt like separate devices to be commanded. They felt like extensions of herself, responding to her intentions before she even fully formed them. This is what the humans understood, she realized. Technology is not about control. It is about relationship. Throughout the battle, Elder Yunho's voice could be heard on emergency channels, not giving orders, but offering guidance and encouragement. Remember, each species brings something unique to this fight. The Thulan provide courage, the Crystal Singers provide harmony, the Zephyrians provide speed. Humanity provides connection, but the strength comes from all of us together. The Void Swarm found themselves facing an enemy that adapted faster than they could learn. Every time they developed a counter to one species' tactics, another species would seamlessly take over that role while the first adapted to a new function. The galaxy's greatest weakness, its inability to truly unite, had become its greatest strength through human guidance. Captain Sujin's ship led the final assault on the Void Swarm's command clusters. But victory did not come through superior firepower. It came through something the Swarm had never encountered: sacrifice motivated by love rather than survival instinct. When the Swarm tried to corrupt the galaxy's communication networks, humans severed their own connections to prevent the spread. When the enemy attempted to turn species against each other, human voices reminded everyone of shared bonds that transcended old prejudices. In the end, the Void Swarm retreated, not because they were defeated, but because they could not understand or counter an enemy that grew stronger through cooperation rather than conquest. As the last enemy ships fled toward dark space, the galaxy found itself changed forever. In the council chambers, Elder Yunho stood before the assembled delegates. His hair was whiter than before, his face more lined, but his eyes held quiet satisfaction. "Honored delegates," he began, "humanity requests readmission to the Galactic Council." Chairman Vextar, his crystalline body bright with emotion, responded immediately. "Elder Yunho, humanity never left the Council. You simply showed us what membership truly means." The reforms that followed were swift and comprehensive. The Council structure changed to reflect what they had learned. That true leadership came not from power or dominance, but from the ability to help others achieve their potential. Humans took no special titles or positions of authority. Instead, they became what they had always been: the connective tissue that helped the galaxy function as a living system, rather than a collection of competing parts. So Young, now promoted to senior ambassador, stood in her new office overlooking the council chambers. Through the windows she could see ships from dozens of species working together, with an ease that would have been impossible a year ago. Captain Sujin appeared on her communication screen, calling from one of the new joint exploration vessels that were already venturing beyond the galaxy to help other civilizations prepare for the Void Swarm's eventual return. "Any regrets about the path we chose?" Sujin asked. So Young smiled, thinking about everything they had gained and lost and gained again. "How can I regret a choice that taught the galaxy to love itself?" Outside her window, the stars shone with new hope. The humans had returned, but they had brought the galaxy back with them. And in the vast spaces between worlds, monitoring stations, staffed by beings from 100 different species, watched the darkness, ready for whatever might come. The phrase human factor had entered galactic language, but it no longer meant the unpredictable variable that made things work. It meant the understanding that the best solutions came not from any single species, but from all species working together with wisdom, patience, and love. Humanity had not just saved the galaxy, they had taught it how to save itself.